Welcome back, everybody. RC here for another photography tips and tricks, your show for gear, tips, inspiration, anything you need to get your photography over the next level. Now, I got a couple of questions on using flash with kind of motion and dance and things like that, and why things would look a little blurry and soft. I'm using flash. Why wouldn't it stop everything? So I figured it would be a good idea to just show you what it is that they're talking about. And the short of it all is basically you need to make sure that you have light on anything that is moving in order to stop it. So here's a picture that I did of a friend of mine, right? So this is Ricky Jamie. I want to make sure that we bring him up, right? Twitter.com/D8Ricky. He is a dancer out of Tampa, out of LA. I think he was doing some stuff for Taylor Swift. He was on season 8 of So You Think You Can Dance, and he had asked me to do some pictures for him. Now, this is the behind the scenes shot. Just kind of wanted to show you here, right? This is just him doing a jump, right? No big deal. I do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm a pro. But I let him do it to see what he would do. And this is what he did. And it looks gorgeous. He has a beautiful body. He's just great lines. He did very, very well with it. I had this light initially hitting the background here, right? But then I noticed that when I did have that light there and I didn't have that light on the back, this leg would get soft. Just because you're throwing flash at a subject doesn't necessarily mean that all of that light is hitting it exactly when you need it. You're going to notice that in some instances, if the light isn't exactly right at a specific spot, you're going to get a little bit of blur. So I sacrificed the other light. So I had a second light right here. I moved them forward a little bit and I threw some light with a grid very, very aimed at this one leg. Now the result, we get a leg that is pretty straight, great form, everything looks pretty good. So this was his warm-up. What he was looking to do was this, right? So this was a jump that he did, and obviously I was a little crooked on it, so I figured I'd go through it. Now, from here, what I wanna do is I wanna just straighten out the crop a little bit. That's pretty good, right? So that was the point where he jumped off of. You could still see it on the floor. And all I'm gonna do is just crank up the exposure just a tiny bit. I'm done. Sometimes this bothers people, sometimes this bothers people. I can just go ahead and come over here, grab this, increase my exposure inside of Lightroom, and I'm pretty good right there. So got the peak part of the jump. I think he's doing okay. I could probably clean it up and make it a little brighter if I want, but what I'm looking for is great extension. The legs look pretty good. Everything seems to be pointed. He's a nice compact package. It looks great. Now, as you do most of that stuff, what you're going to notice is that you will get a little bit of blur. So you have to make sure that a lot of that light is very isolated to a specific portion of the body. In these instances, what I did here was I said, jump a couple of different times and let me see exactly where your legs land. Let me see exactly where you're springing off of the jump. All those lights then were brought in and kind of moved around in position so that I got a lot of peak action, a lot of light on that peak action section. Now, I did this over in Dubai, same type of setup, right? So this is Lilia. She's a 12-year-old self-taught dancer. So she's learning how to do this stuff by herself. She's got some amazing, amazing moves and she's doing very, very well on her own. So that's one shot. That was her. You'll notice a lot of this stuff is frozen. Right? Very, very solid. So we were throwing 4 lights at that. 1 light at the background that I sacrificed. I had to do a little Photoshop on this side, but that's 1 light. A second light is an accent light, and then the main light, because you want to stop all of that. I would say sacrifice your background, sacrifice any kind of thing that you can Photoshop later. You're not going to be able to Photoshop something that happens to be blurred, but make sure that there's concentrated light at every appendage that's going to be moving. Tape down a mark and have them do a couple of series of jumps before they do that. Now, when can you catch peak action? A lot of the times what happens is if somebody's doing any kind of dance photography, when we're watching it, a lot of the times people see the big spring, they see the leap in the air, and they take the picture. By the time that you see the leap in the air, you're not gonna get the picture. What will happen is you'll wind up with what I call floating A's, which is just a whole bunch of people just kind of floating in the air with their legs coming down. If you can see it, it's already happened. So what I would tell people is right before they jump, as they're jumping, that's when you burst. So in the middle of the jump, before they split, before they do anything, pop the shot there. You'll notice that more often than not, you can catch peak action like this in that one area. So That's the same thing that was happening here. Peak action only happens if you catch the approach to the jump, not the jump. So a little secondary tip inside of there. Now, what happens when you don't hit this, right? So here's one shot, right, which I liked, right? It's 15 millimeter. I wanted her on the stage taking a look at this, right? So I have a light that's actually behind her to simulate almost kind of like you're in a theater, right? So we threw a light all the way back up there so that it kind of spills back, it hits the seats, and it did well, but look right here. I'm gonna show you, I'll move this into, let's say 2:1, so you could see it. I'll go to Lightroom, go to 2:1. So you'll see here, her leg looks a lot longer, and you can actually see through it in some of this. So what happened to me there, right? She moved out of the position of where I needed her, right? The light kind of was a little soft in that one section, didn't really stop it, right? The lights are fast enough to be able to capture it, but they're not fast enough if I'm not aiming exactly at that. So it was a little off the mark there, I was a little off the mark, and we get a translucent leg and a little bit of a wider leg, right? Not good. But if I reposition her, reposition myself, make sure that the lights are actually set exactly where they want, I can get a shot where she's actually in the air, and you'll notice a lot sharper, right? A little bit of a blur, a little bit of translucent part right there, but I can deal with that. That's not necessarily that bad. At least I didn't kind of overextend her leg, and we produced a shot that did really well. So overall, a picture that I'm very, very happy with. Now, when we come back, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about Tethered Capture, how to be able to set it up with a camera, and a quick little tip that will help you during the Tethered Capture process. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Oh, wait. Greg, do you see that?
Yeah, Ren. What tracks are those?
I don't know.
These look like moose tracks.
Moose? In Africa?
Station says fresh tracks of a moose heading east from First and Piccadilly towards Fred Street.
Greg, keep a lookout for fresh scat out here.
Brendan, I don't know what moose scat looks like. Station tracks of the moose look to head east. Brendan, look.
Moose is in Africa.
Welcome back, everybody. RC here for Photography Tips and Tricks. Now, let's talk to you a little bit about how to set yourself up for tethering inside of Lightroom. Now, question on it, it's actually very easy to do, right? You click on the File menu, and inside of File, you'll notice that you have an option here called Tethered Capture. So that's what you want to use, not Auto Import. Go to Tethered Capture and select Start Tethered Capture from here. Once you have that set, you're going to have an area here that says, what do you call the session? Now, this will automatically create a folder for you. So let's just say that I'm saying Studio Taping, right? That's going to name the file Studio Taping as well, and it's going to give it a location. More often than not, what I'll do inside of here is I'll set this to go to the desktop when I'm working with this. So now I have it set up to the desktop. It's not going to put all of the pictures in the desktop. It'll take all of the pictures and give them this name, Studio Taping, and it's going to put it in a folder called Studio Taping. At that point, what I would want to do is make sure that you just put in your metadata right in, very, very easy. Now, notice that my preset right now, I haven't updated it, right? So I would go over here, I would go to Edit My Presets, and I want to take a look at my 2014 preset, right? If you change it, let's say like I make it 2015 right now, right? I can take that and I can just say, save the current settings as a new preset. I don't want this to happen to me again. I'm going to call it 2015 copyright, click on Create, and I'm click on Done. So now all of my copyright information is in there. I can just call it Lightroom, Studio, Kelby, Arnaldo, because he's looking at me. Now that you have your Tethered Capture set, you have your HUD, right? This is the Tethered Capture window. You can just Command T to hide that or show that. Now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my camera. Now on the Canon, I have to have a card inside of it to shoot. Let's say that I want to be able to shoot something here. I'm just going to make a quick shot, focus. I'm going to make a shot of my buddy Arnaldo hard at work. We'll take that shot there. Woo, wow, that's 400 ISO. I'm going to change that. You notice that as I change it, it's also changing right here on that display. So watch this. I'm going to zoom in here, show you. Right, there's my ISO, 2500 ISO. There he is. I want it not to be f8. I can just change it right in this one section. Now it's 5.6. Now it's f4. Now it's 2.8. That looks pretty good. Now, I've taken a series of pictures of him, right? He likes it. We're putting it on his Match.com profile. Now, so now you'll notice it took the pictures. Things seem to be okay here. Now, it's a little bright, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my exposure, and I'm going to drag my exposure, and I'm going to bring it down just a tiny bit. I also want to shoot, and I want to shoot a little desaturated. Once I have that set, I'm like, all right, well, anytime that I do this shoot afterwards, I want to make sure that I continue to use those same settings. Favorite part of the Tethered Capture is right under here under Develop Settings. Right now it's set to none. If you click on this, you can actually set it to same as previous. So now, when I shoot the next shot, let's just go ahead and take another picture of him. There we go. It's going to take that shot, it'll move that shot, but once that shot comes over, it'll automatically apply the same settings that we did in the previous picture. It's a great way for you to kind of get yourself up and running much faster when you're using Tethered Capture inside of Lightroom. So that was pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to do. As soon as you're done, you just click on File, Tethered Capture, and stop Tethered Capture. And you're off to the races. Now, we have a PeachBit ebook deal. Make sure that you go to peachbit.com/Kelby1 and enter in the code Kelby1. You're going to see Urban Exploration Photography by Todd Sipes. 40% off of this ebook. All you have to do is enter in the code Kelby1. Thank you so much to PeachBit for that. Now, we also want to leave you with some inspiration. Carlos Turienzo. Go to 500px.com/darkrigel. He's got some great images, some great nighttime images, good atmosphere, and incredible inspiration right off of the 500px site. So Dark Rigel, Carlos Turienzo, beautiful, beautiful work. That's pretty much it for this week. Thank you so much for stopping by, everybody. We will see you guys next week here on Photography Tips and Tricks. Take care.